WebEx Assistant is enabled to save audio highlights.
Want me to mention the peak situation at the outset as well?
Yeah, well, I will.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's on. Okay. Well, thank you. We're ready to make another round of offers. And one of the things that I'd like to ask you before we start here is, I know we've put our PACE stuff off until omnibus, both House and Senate, but we would like to look at the positions. I know you had some particular ideas on not just certain percent, but also looking at trying to hit certain market type salaries. Anyway, if you wouldn't mind maybe at some point in time here sharing that with us, and we would be interested in maybe looking at the wages at this time rather than omnibus. And I think with that, we have a few provisos, and maybe we'll start out with that if you're okay with that instead of the sheet. We'll do that. So I will start out with Vice Chair Clays is going to offer some provisos.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll start out with a proviso for FY 2024. This is going to be under the Department of Commerce. This will be the cap proviso, if you'd like to pass that one out. Oh, thank you. What this does is it moves the rural cap from 10 million to 25 million. It's contained in a bill that has, I believe, passed the House, but has not gone anywhere in the Senate yet. And this would just simply take that 10 million cap to 25 million. If no questions, I'll move to the second one. And that's also going to be Department of Commerce and relating to the same STAR bond bill. This is the item that would add amusement rides, major amusement park area to the list of eligible items that was, again, also contained in that bill that passed the House. The third one, again, Department of Commerce. This is for the ks project. It is to attract a very specific business to that facility, and it's this one here. It's the $2.95 million for the lease purchase to the airport authority. Yeah, probably just not name the business right now since everybody will be going after him. Yeah. Next up, Department of Transportation. There is a current program that exists under the Eisenhower program that has to do with scholarships for driver's education. This would extend, it has a sunset on it after 5 years, so this would extend it further for a 2-year period, FY24 and 25. I believe they're handing that out. And this isn't the final one, though. It's the final one with some paperwork. This is the $9 million under KDHE, Division of Healthcare Finance. This is to expand a program that will monitor it will monitor Medicaid eligibility, roughly $9 million. The projected savings is about $140 million, both state and federal. This program monitors those who are who become ineligible and alerts KDHE immediately when that ineligibility occurs using credit monitoring and other systems that are available to them. And then, if no questions on that, I would move to these two would be budget items. One would be, in keeping with the Medicaid fraud and abuse, the addition of $340,000 and 3 FTEs to the Medicaid Inspector General for investigators to investigate Medicaid fraud and abuse claims. They have had a increase from the 200s up to the 1400s in cases. And that is 3 FTEs, $340,000. We'll strike the FTEs if you really want to. Nobody gets the joke. All right, moving on. And then, then we have a request to engage in a 1-year proviso to allow for the Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks to issue youth lifetime permits to those age 15 and younger. And finally, this would be under the State Banking Commissioner for all years it is listed in the budget, except for 2023, to zero their budget out and review it omnibus.
Banking Commissioner.
State Banking Commissioner to zero for 24. I believe they're listed in 24 and 25. So yes, just for 24 and 25, 23 would remain funded.
And review it omnibus.
And review it omnibus. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions on the provisos? Okey doke, we'll move to the green sheet. Questions?
First, if you can explain some of the information, I'm unfamiliar with most of these and why we're doing it. Maybe the Senate had some discussions, and we can go backwards if you like, starting at the Banking Commission.
We are looking for the State Banking Commissioner to be responsive to some items, and the power of the purse is the way that we accomplish that. So I would expect he will be very responsive after we have zeroed out his budget for 24 and 25.
Okay, I'll hold the rest of that part of the question on that. Was there a proposal to the governor about the Medicaid fraud and the 3 FTEs? Were that not funded?
I believe this was a late request from the Medicaid Inspector General that came in. So
Is that located in the Attorney General?
it is. It's in the Mills Building under the Attorney General.
Okay, so that hasn't gone to the governor yet.
I don't believe that request was made through the governor's office.
Okay. Then can you tell me more about the $9 million KDHE healthcare finance request?
Sure. There's an existing contract with Equifax for KDHE. I believe it's in the $3 million range, and they provide data services to determine eligibility for programs. This would expand that. So they would be able to, through their data services, be able to indicate when someone becomes Medicaid ineligible and alert KDHE that that's occurred. Typically, it's when someone's income increases. Sometimes it's when someone goes to jail, for instance. They project and estimate about $140 million in savings, both state and federal, by implementing this program. We're doing it for 1 year in this proviso, which would give them 2024 to prove that case.
Are they under contract right now?
I believe that Equifax is currently under contract. It's a smaller contract, smaller scope with KDHE, yes.
And even though it's listed, they're not named in the amendment, you're saying that this would be specifically for them?
It wouldn't necessarily. An RFP would be issued. I don't know that there are a ton of services that offer this, but that's where the data for this came from, as far as the numbers that they estimate based on other states that they're involved with doing the same thing.
Okay, I'll hold the rest of the questions till we get a chance to talk about it.
Okay, any other questions before we start on the sheet? Okay, we'll start on page 1. Agriculture, natural resources, item 1, Senate. Education, number 1, Senate. Number 1 with the University of Kansas Senate. Number 2, General Government Senate. Number 1, Department Administration Senate. Number 2, Department Administration, we're going to give you a Senate modified. We will go ahead and agree to the funding if you'll agree to do it in $250 for 2 years, including the additional year. Right. Add 24 to it. Total of 5 is what I think kind of what they asked for.
250.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So.
With the same.
Yeah, same, everything's same, just, we'll do the Senate modified and do it for 2 years. And okay, at the bottom, Department of Revenue, we're going to go with House on that. Page 2, Office of the Governor. We're going to stay with the Senate. State Treasurer, Senate. Department of Health and Environment, number 2. Oh, wait a minute. I skipped that. Excuse me. State. Yes. Oh, yes. We're going to do a House modified. We will add the money and do away with the FTE. Right.
That one's done.
Okay. Yes, I already had marked it. That's why I skipped over it.
I did the same thing last time.
Yep. Okay, State Treasurer, Senate. Department of Health and Environment, Health, number 2, Senate. Number 3, Senate. Department of Labor, Senate. Department of Aging and Disabilities, we'll take the House. Page 3, item number 3 at the top, we're going to go with House. Highway Patrol, we're going to do a Senate modified. And, pardon me? Okay. I'll let JR explain this one.
Thanks, Rick. Good times. You can tell how much time we spend up there in his office. All right. The Highway Patrol, under this, you have a request to hold on to that 2005 Bell helicopter. Previously, we had in there that must be sold for the initial helicopter to be purchased. That was a subject of much debate, and we continue to concur that the 2005 Bell needs to be sold and offloaded for its maintenance issues. We will propose and hold firm on one of two positions, and that is our proposal here, which would be to add $6.9 million from the State Highway Fund to purchase a second helicopter to be based in Wichita. Still, all the other language would be retained on selling the Bell 407 that's in the current budget bill. And our position would be that it's a purchase of the helicopter, or our second preference would be simply to do nothing at this time, rather than keep that 2005 Bell. It is, I would call it a non-starter with us. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I don't know, last year we had a lot of discussion when we ordered the other new planes, and we talked like we, at some point in time, wanted to do this anyway. We were just trying to move them where they weren't all in the same year, so when we get to replacement down the road, that they're not all having to be replaced at one time. And so this does spread that to the next year. So, okay, we'll move down to the Kansas State Fair Board, Senate. Okay, and we had accepted the House modified, and the rest of that page, we're going to go to number 2, Wildlife and Parks, accept the House position there. And so that portion is complete. Page 4, we're going to stay with the Senate position all the way down on that. Okay, page 5. Page 5, it looks like we're going to stay with the Senate on those also. So it's all Senate. Page 6, at the top, KSU 105. We're going to stay with the Senate. What are we doing to?
We didn't get an answer quick enough from these guys. How bad do you want to?
Okay, we'll stay with the Senate on number 2. Moving down, University of Kansas, Senate, number 2 Senate, number 3 Senate. Skip down to the Board of Cosmetology. We're going to do a House modified, and we will keep the funding, delete the FTE. Question?
Did you check to make sure that they have vacant FTEs? No.
Senator Clays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you delete their FTE tomorrow, they can just create another FTE, so it doesn't really matter. You've done it so many times, we just thought you guys found that really appealing to cut FTEs and fund them anyway, so there you go.
Okay, moving down to the bottom, Board of Tax Appeals, Senate. Oh, wait a minute, excuse me. The Board of Indigence Defense, House. I already lined that one out, too. Pardon? Yeah. Yeah, I did. It's right. Senate on Board of Tax Appeal at the bottom. Okay, page 7. 1, 2, 3, and 4 Senate, Department of Administration, Department of Commerce, 1, 2, and 3 Senate, 7 Senate, Department of Revenue. What do we do in the Senate modified there?
I think we're just holding Senate because they were coming back.
Right, you were going to do something different on that one, so we're staying with the Senate position on that at this time. Number 2, delete the 8 FTEs. We're going with House there. Number 1, Judicial, House. Number 2, Judicial, House. Page 8 at the top, Office Administration Hearings, Senate. Number 2 and 3 Senate. Real Estate Appraisal Board. Oh, wait a minute, excuse me. Number 1, Office of Governor, House. Line that one out too. And 2 and 3, we're going to stay with the Senate. I still think those would be great GBAs, both of them. So we're going to stick with the Senate this time. Number 1 on Real Estate Appraisal Board. We will go with House modified and just add language to put the report to Senate Ways and Means as well as Appropriations. I'm sure there were oversights on both sides. So, State Banking Commission, Senate.
Secretary of State.
Secretary of State will go with House. Okay, the Bank Commissioner, Senate, State.
What was mentioned before, zeroing it out? Or is that just different?
Yeah, we're going to accept this, but it's still zeroed out.
Okay. The House modified, we had accepted the funding only. Is that right? On number 2?
Yes.
Okay. Number 3, State Treasurer, Senate. Number 2, Senate. And that finishes that page. Page 9, we'll skip down to, okay, Commission of Veterans Affairs, number 3, House. Number 4, House. Number 1, Department of Children and Families, House. Number 2, Senate. Number 4, Senate. Department of Health and Environment, Health, number 1, Senate. Number 2, Senate. Number 3, Senate. Number 6. What did we do?
We kept Senate.
Okay, Senate on number 6. Number 8 is House. And number 11, we were House, correct? Or Senate? Okay, Senate on that. I scribbled that one too. Okay, page 10 at the top, number 12, Senate. Kansas Department of Aging and Disability Service, 1, 2, and 3, Senate. What are we doing for? Okay, we took your Senate position on 4, okay. Number 6, Senate. Number 8, Senate. Number 9, Senate. Number 13, Senate. Number 14, Senate. Number 16 and 17, Senate. Page 11 at the top, Senate. Other statewide adjustments, number 1, Senate. Number 2, Senate. Number 4, Senate. 5, Senate. 6, Senate. Department of Corrections, 1, 2, 3, and 4, Senate. KBI, number 1.
House modified.
Senate, yeah, we were going to do Senate modified and add the 3.4 and use the ARPA for the air conditioner. So I guess we're accepting yours more or less, as long as there's ARPA available.
Not sure if they had a surge.
We didn't have surge though.
Okay, so we added a surge, okay. Okay, that's part of the modified, so it is Senate modified with the surge.
Surge is still SGF.
Right, and that is still SGF for surge. I don't know if it qualified for ARPA. If you got other additional ARPA dollars, we'd be okay with that.
It's salaries mostly,
Yeah, so it's.
Okay, that's why I said I didn't know if it would, but
So, position this was, if it was made, otherwise it says SGF, right?
yeah.
Okay, is that?
Page 13. No, 12. Excuse me, I'm wrong side. Page 12. Education Senate, number 2 Senate, number 3 Senate, Department of Education, 1, 2, and 3 Senate, Emporia State Senate. Page 13 at the top, item 1 from KSU 105 Senate, University of Kansas Geological Survey Account, Senate. Number 1, General Government. We accepted the House there, right? Yep, so that's done. Okay, Board of Cosmetology, Senate modified. We will do the funding and omit the FTE. Number 1, Department of Commerce, Senate. Number 1, ad valorem, Senate. Number 1, Office of Administration Hearings, Senate. Optometry Board, House. State Banking Commission, Senate. Number 2 on the State Bank Commissioner, we'll do a Senate modified and just omit the FTE. Keep the funding and omit the FTE. And the last 2 pages are all Senate. As you can tell, we kind of run out of time on the last page or 2 and didn't want you sitting there too long, so we will start backward next time. Questions?
It's not necessarily a question, it's just the, I thought I might, the Kansas Comprehensive Grant funding, I think well, this was on page 12. It's also 25 and 24 are the same, so I just happened to find it. It's number 1 under Board of Regents, page 12. I thought I might explain a little bit. I think we're both trying to do the same thing. It's just that in looking at what happened last year, you know, if you remember rightly, we added, I think it was 19 million to that comprehensive grant. The Board of Regents took that 19 million and distributed it differently than the rest of that fund had been distributed in the past. What you guys did was to say, no, we want that distributed like it's been done in the past. That's basically what we did too, or that is what we did also, except in doing that, we found out that there would be $4.5 million of scholarships that had been given through the universities because of that extra money that they got, that they would not be able to fulfill over the next 4 years, or the next 3 years, I guess it'd be. And so we gave them that $4.5 million and said that is to be used to fulfill those scholarships over the next 3 years. But the whole $35 million that is in the fund has to be distributed the way it was before 50-50. So I just wanted to make sure you understood, because we're both trying to do the same thing. It's just that if we don't do the $4.5 million, I'm afraid that there'll be some scholarships that they will, they could be short on giving those. So that's just the explainer of that.
So you're adding $4.5 million.
We are, yeah. But that's the only way to do it in order to make it going forward. Yeah, sorry. It's the only way to do it going forward to make sure that the rest of it is distributed 50-50.
Thank you for the explanation. So they've committed these scholarships, and these students got them like this year, but next year they wouldn't if the funding's short? Okay.
That's what we're told.
Senator Clays.
Just to be clear, so these are 4-year scholarships that are awarded, and we funded year 1 because of the change in the way that they distributed it for certain students. And then this next 3 years, they would not be given those awards under the current Senate language. But they were promised those for 4 years. Those are always awarded in 4-year increments.
Yeah, my understanding is that's when they put together the package for the students and they say, we're going to give you a comprehensive grant, they do it on a 4-year. They say you're going to get this. As long as you keep up your grades and things like that, you get them for the next 4 years.
Thank you for the explanation. Are there other questions? Okay. So I guess we're both going on the floor here in about 10 minutes. So I guess we'll see how, is your floor action going to be very long, you think? Or don't know what you're doing? Okay. We have 4 concurs for sure, and then we have a bill that could take a little bit of time. So I'll kind of see how we're going, and I'll ask leadership if they got any idea on how long it might be, and I'll text you, and then we'll announce. You can announce it on yours, and I can announce it on our both floors, and everyone would just wait for an announcement. Well, thank you.